Good morning and welcome inside the Saturday Morning Huddle, brought to you by Ortho United. I'm Kenny Rhoda. He's Billy Beebe. It is week 14 of the Saturday Morning Huddle, and one team is left standing in Stark County after last night's big Division II Region 7 final between Lake and Massillon, and it is the Tigers who were victorious last night, Billy, 24-6 over the Lake Blue Streaks. Both of us were there. I'm still thawing out. I've got my Elmer Fudd Timothy Mozgov hat on to still try and thaw out my ears and everything like that. And we'll talk to Nate Moore in just a second as he was, wearing something similar, but I think nicer than mine. But for you covering that game last night, just your thoughts real quick, and then we'll get to the coach from the Tigers as well as one of his players. Your thoughts on their impressive performance last night in dominating that game from start to finish.
Yeah, it was icy. It was windy. It was cold. All the above. It was going to be tough to kick. It was going to be tough to throw. I think about 5 minutes before I kind of realized, hey, I think this may be a pound it out, run it quick. Everybody's running, screen passes only, and then we'll get out of here. And I think that's kind of what we saw, but we'll break that down with Coach Moore and kind of talk about the game plan and kind of what happened out there for Massillon to get the big win and really shut Lake down. The Blue Streaks really found no offense at any point.
Total of 65 yards of offense for Lake last night. So Massillon did it running the football on offense and dominating on defense. So without further ado, let's bring in the outstanding head coach for the Massillon Tigers, Nate Moore, and he's got Dorian Pringle, outstanding linebacker, all-county linebacker, and running back, joining us this morning on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Gentlemen, thanks for making time for us. Congratulations on the win last night. Nate, for you, we were talking about the elements and everything. You guys were able to battle through that as well as battle Lake and come away with a 24-6 victory. Your thoughts on the way your team played last night, advancing to another semifinal in Division II?
I was really proud of them. At this point in the year, it's just all about getting the win at whatever it takes. We accomplished that goal. As you said earlier, the weather was a big factor. Not really the cold so much as the wind. The wind was whipping through the stadium, 20, 24 miles an hour. And so whether or not you were into the wind or with the wind was really important, especially in the kicking game. I think throwing the ball was pretty tough either way. I don't know that there was a great advantage having the wind trying to throw the ball last night. But with the kicking game, definitely.
And Coach, you talked about the elements. You talked a little bit about how it would affect how you guys played. You end up using the running backs most of the night on offense. Was that always the plan?
I mean, run the football is always a strong part of our plan, but it becomes more so on a night like that with the wind as it was.
All right, put up the pictures, Billy, because this is my hat from last night. And like I said, I thought this was pretty sweet. The Cavaliers gave this away one night in honor of Timothy Mozgov. But there's Nate, and I see the Obi. It's a little blurred, Nate, but there's an Obi on the side of that. And then run the sideline photo as well, Billy. That's flaps down with Obi on the sidelines. That's flaps up during the game, Coach. All right, so like I said, I'm jealous. That one had to be warmer than mine, and you stylized it as well. So where did this hat come from? Because it was perfect for last night's game.
I actually bought it from one of our assistant coaches, Ken Pryor. Ken had an extra one and bought it off him and sent it down to Simon Says Promotions in downtown Massillon, Ohio, the Tiger store, and had him throw some Obies on it for me.
Dorian, what did you think of your coach's fit?
Yeah.
I loved it. Asked him where he got the hat from, too, in the game.
Might be seeing that on the sidelines instead of helmets maybe in years to come in cold weather games for Massillon. But, Coach, some thoughts from you. You get a safety early on. 15-play drive to start the game. They stop you at the 1. Questionable call there at the goal line, but they marked it short as you guys then take over on defense, fumbled snap, and both of you guys kind of comment on this play here and how big that was, Coach, to at least get some points out of that long drive and then get the ball right back.
Why don't you go first, Dorian?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was great because we get another drive on offense and get down there and score and just keep the morale up of the team since we got stopped on the long drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought our first offensive possession, even though it didn't result in points, was an extremely successful possession. We're starting off the game going into the wind. So having a punt is you never want to punt, but you really don't want to punt there. And we were able to chew time off the clock in the quarter. We were going into the wind. And possess the ball. We were able to show that we were able to run the football against these guys.
Yeah.
And so it ended on fourth and 2 or 4th and 1 at the goal line, but we were giving them a 99-yard field. So it was a great first possession, with us going into the win. Would have loved to end with points. But there's a reason why you don't hate giving them the ball on the 1-yard line in that case. And Dorian and the guys proved that point.
Yeah, the defense outstanding there, coming up with the safety. You get the ball back. You go up 9-0, Coach, as Willtrell scores on the next possession. So it was, I think, 24-1 plays in the first quarter. Have you ever been involved in a game where you had the ball 24 times in the quarter and the opposition only had it once?
The only thing I can think of that's comparable would be the 2020 regional final, I believe, against Perry at Perry, but we were on the wrong side of that. I don't remember if it was the first quarter or the second. It might have been the first quarter where it was more than one play, but I think we had a 3 and out, and that was sandwiched in between 2 long Perry drives.
Yeah, because you guys dominate there and get the touchdown to go up 9-0. And I want to ask you about a play that I marked down, Nate, in my mind on my phone because I couldn't write last night with the gloves and everything, but I wrote it this morning. A key moment to the game for me was late in the second quarter. You're up 9-0, some penalties on your team. They get a drive. They have it second down and whatever from your 13, and you had back-to-back sacks to stop that drive. How big was that series right there, that situation? Because if they score there, it's 9-7. All of a sudden, they've got momentum, and they're getting the ball coming out in the third quarter.
Yeah, definitely. I think that possession was after a fumble. That's why they got the ball so close.
Okay, all right.
I believe that's correct. And our defense, they got on the field and answered the bell. Dorian, the guys, the wrecking crew back there took care of business. In a game like that, with the wind as it was, getting somebody in a position where they essentially have to throw the football is advantage defense, and we've been good at setting pressure all year. If you send pressure, you want to get home, or you want to at least affect the quarterback, and we accomplished that.
All right, Dorian, let's take a look at one of your runs here. Here's a touchdown run from you. It seemed like you guys were really using the offensive line, not only picking your gaps, but as those guys hit, you kind of pushed with them, especially around the goal line. What was going so well with the O-line there?
I mean, the O-line was just blocking the tails off. We just hitting the gaps. We just run the ball around here. They do all the hard jobs. We just had to find the open gap.
And Dorian, for you, go ahead, Billy.
Sorry, Coach. Let's take a look at Willtrell too, running the ball. The snow's falling down. He's getting a little bit of room. He's taking hits. What did you think about Willtrell's performance?
It was a great performance. Really proud of him. He's now the all-time or the single season rushing career record. Well, let me make sure I said that right. The single season record holder, right, in rushing yards in Massillon history. So, and a gutsy performance, carried the ball 40 sometimes, which should, I think the record is 42. I think Jameer Thomas has the record. I think it's 42 against McKinley in 2017. But so that was a historic night, a night where we needed him and Dorian to grind it out, and the offensive line to just give us a seam. Just give us a seam, keep grinding. And that was the key to victory.
Coach, with a back like him, he can break it at any time, but what has impressed me about him in the games that we've seen, Moeller, McKinley, Eds here, all the top teams, right, that you guys have played, Lake last night, and their outstanding defensive front, is his ability to, accept the 3-4 yard run, get back up, do it again, take the hits. And if he breaks one, great. But by the end of the night, $175 last night officially from your guys' stats and a touchdown on 40 carries. Do you go to him before the game and let him know, depending on the team you're playing or because of the weather last night, hey, be prepared. This isn't going to be a 20 carry game. This is a 30 or maybe even a 40 carry game, so he can mentally prepare for that?
Yeah, our running backs coach is Travis McGuire, who actually held the record that Willtrell broke for, 30 years, I guess.
Right.
And Travis does a great job managing those guys, and he actually had Trell on what you would essentially call a pitch count for most of the year. We wanted to limit his carries. Obviously we want to win the football games, but we wanted to limit his carries because we knew that come playoff time, there are going to be games like this where we needed him to have an exorbitant amount of carries, and you can't do that every week. And so at this point in the season, it's win or go home, and I think Travis has done a really nice job managing the workload with Willtrell, and he's now ready to take that on.
All right, Coach, this was a big play too towards the end of the game. Really, it felt like 3 different plays, but we'll ask you and Dorian, what was going on here with Jalen as he ends up finding Dorian for the touchdown?
Oh, well, realistically, I wasn't supposed to go for a route. It was a fake handoff, and Jalen did a scramble drill trying to get away, and I just went upfield and he threw me the ball.
Yeah, it's just players making plays. The play we called, thought it was going to be there, but they sniffed it out, and Jalen and Dorian just made a play right there.
It's a little backyard football right there, right, Dorian? Just like old days, playing in the backyard with your friends. Get open when you see somebody scrambling around, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, for you, what's more exciting or more rewarding, Dorian? Because you're a two-way player, linebacker and running back. All right, is it scoring a rushing touchdown and running over somebody at the goal line, catching a pass like that, showing your versatility, the good hands, or getting a quarterback for a sack or a running back for a TFL?
I think it's really starting the game off with a big hit on kickoff and getting the whole team involved.
How about that, Coach? You're one of your star players, right? Enjoying special teams above everything else. That says a lot about their, I guess, team camaraderie and doing whatever it takes to win.
Really does. Dorian's he's a big team guy. It's special when you have players of the ability level that Dorian has, who just punches the clock every day. Whether he's run the football or blocking, it doesn't matter to him. He just wants to win. He's on almost every one of our special teams. We essentially have to limit him offensively because he's so important to us everywhere else. But when we have to have it, when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, good chance the ball is going in 34's hands.
Hey, Billy, let me jump in just real quick before we get to next week's game and that. I want to ask Coach and Dorian, last year at this point, you guys were upset by Green. And I mentioned this on the broadcast. I've seen teams professionally, collegiately, high school-wise as well. One year when they're upset, they come back the following year with a vengeance to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm just curious, Nate, was last year's loss at this point in the season to Green brought up at all? Was that a motivating factor for the team? And Dorian, if you want to chime in on that as well.
It definitely wasn't something we talked about it internally. Yeah, I think it was losing that game was hugely motivational throughout the entire preseason. But I don't think it had any bearing on this game whatsoever.
Coach, we talked about offense. Running the ball was the key. You wanted to do that. You talked about getting your guys ready for that. What was the plan defensively, and did you feel like you guys came through on that?
Well, they had 0 rushing yards, so I think we played pretty well. This was a game where even with great weather was essentially going to be a strength on strength ball game. I thought with their great backs and huge up front of the offensive line, and the teeth of our defense is up front as well. So it looked like a strength on strength matchup, even at that. But you add in the wind and the cold, and it became even more so. And our guys rose to the challenge. 0 rushing yards and 65 total yards on 36 plays, something like that. And to give these guys proper credit, I think maybe 40 of those yards was picked up against our number 2s there at the end of the game. So when you look at it like that, it was maybe a historic performance by our defense in that regional championship game.
And Dorian, for you defensively, you guys accepted the challenge, rose to the challenge. Why were you guys able to dominate like you did last night?
I think it's because we knew it was going to be cold, so we knew they were going to try to run the ball on us the whole game. And that's just not going with our front seven. Our safeties coming down and making hits, everybody working together, filling their gaps and stuff. So I just think that's what happened.
Yeah, you guys dominated. They got a touchdown, like you said, against the reserves, Nate, late, 24-6, the final. So you advance to another regional state semifinal, I should say, winning the regional championship for the 5th time in the last 6 years. And you'll play a familiar foe, Nate. They've won 7 regional championships in the last 8 years. They're in the semifinals. It's Hoban and it's Massillon once again for the right to go play for the state championship. Just your early thoughts, Nate, on going up against Tim Terrell and the Hoban Knights again.
Yeah, they're an excellent football team. Good at all 3 levels, both sides of the ball. It should be a 4-quarter, 48-minute war. So it's an honor to be here, but our goal isn't to be here. Our goal is to win the ball game. So can't wait.
Nate, the other thing that impressed me last night too, and Dorian sitting there, you handed the regional championship trophy over to your guys, your captains, your 4 captains, and they spoke to the team last night. And what I was impressed with as I was listening in on it was, okay, yeah, we accomplished what we needed to accomplish here, but practice Monday. We've got to refocus and get going. As a head coach, just after winning a championship, a regional championship like that, how nice is it to hear from your captains that they're already thinking about Monday just moments after you won a regional championship?
I mean, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So proud of those guys. Our leadership this year has been really good at the captain level, at the unit leader level, and at the team level. A guy like Dorian Pringle here has done a phenomenal job as a leader. So proud of those guys. Their minds are right. I think our team's in a really good place. We had a great pregame leading up to the game. Probably our best of the year. I expect our guys to be dialed in this week.
Billy, you got anything else for these guys?
I'm hoping for better weather for both you guys and me next week when I'm on the sideline. So wishing you all on that, guys.
At least it'll be a better stadium, Coach, as far as the field goes and everything. You're playing at InfoCision Stadium against Hoban, so it should be a great crowd from both sides. Should be a great game. Dorian, congratulations on the win. Nate, congratulations. We appreciate the time this morning, and good luck next week. We'll see you there.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
How about that, man? Dorian Pringle, 3-way player, not a 2-way player, Billy, right? Offense, defense, and special teams. And what did he enjoy most? that opening hit, man, right? You get the adrenaline going. It's the opening kickoff, and he's on the kickoff coverage team or kickoff return team and getting to blow somebody up on the kickoff right there. And just that was as dominating a performance as we've seen all year long. And I think they ran about maybe 7 different plays the entire night. They ran that screen outside.
Yeah.
Who was it to? I'm trying to see here the receiver. That was Kyler Wiggins, right?
Mm-hmm.
They threw a couple of fades to Ardell that were incomplete. They ran Dorian and they ran Willtrell. Most of it was between the tackles. So they didn't show much. If that was part of the game plan for whoever they were going to play in the state semifinals, maybe they didn't need to show much because they felt that they could dominate the line of scrimmage. But they controlled the game, the ball, the clock, like 24-0 going into the last minute with the backups in there. Massillon, as we thought at the beginning of the season, they were the best team in Stark County. Well, they've proved that they are that, as they're the last one standing going into week 15.
Yeah, Coach Moore said it. That first drive, Kenny, they go all the way down to the inch line, really, and they don't get it, but you got the feeling. You're like, man, they killed clock. They moved the ball. The longest third down they had was like 3rd and 2. They really cruised down the field, kind of asserted their will, and they gave the vibe. I thought it was a very McKinley-ish game plan, right? They wanted to just pound the ball, get upfield, kill the clock, score, and go home. It was freezing. It was tough. And I think if you remember this, maybe it was the second or third quarter, but the first time I saw a real pass, Slaughter put one on the money to Ardell over the middle, and the wind took it and put it outside his reach, incomplete over the middle. That's when I realized nobody was going to try and throw deep again if they didn't have to. Massillon actually had a nice throw from Jalen again to Ardell Banks in the corner of the end zone, just beyond his reach. And then Lake, some desperation throws. But we showed the highlights. I mean, this was it. This was the game. Grind it out, pound it out. The snow's flowing. The O-line's hitting. Constant cracking to the pads all night long. Rarely, even on the runs, did Massillon try bouncing it outside. They just followed those blocks and really pushed when they hit the line. How many times, Kenny, did we see him goal line like this? Just hit that pile, push, and go. That was the offense. That's what they wanted to do. And then, I feel goofy now asking Nate if he felt his defense came through when, that's what they looked like all night. And like you said, they gave up 0 rushing yards. They gave up nothing. They barely gave Lake room to breathe. Lake even created turnovers and still got nothing on offense. Look at this. They were given the Federal League Player of the Year nothing.
A heck of a performance by the Massillon Tigers, and it was interesting. I wrote down the keys to the game from both coaches as they gave me these before the game when we had them on the Kenny and JT show. By the way, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7, selfless plug, Kenny and JT show on WHBC. But Nate's keys to the game to me were run the football, check, stop the run, check, and win the turnover battle. I think that was, they were either -1 or it was even. So 2 out of 3, as Meatloaf once said, ain't bad. And they win it 24-6. Dan DeGeorge's keys to the game, and talking to him prior to it, do everything right. No turnovers, didn't do that. No penalties. They were limited in penalties, and we can't miss tackles. They did a pretty good job of tackling, actually, but they didn't give up the big play. They made Massillon earn everything with that good defense, so not too bad. Win on special teams. I don't think they did that. They were minus their all-county kicker. Kelton Dutton had a broken wrist or a fractured wrist, whatever it was, a cast on it. We saw it at the banquet on Thursday night, so he couldn't catch snaps on the punt. So Nate Baker had to come in and do that, but he did attempt an extra point. That was blocked, I think, late in the game. Play at a high level for all 4 quarters against Massillon. Not quite for them. Nice stop on the opening series. That really, to me, I mentioned that drive right before the half, Billy, but you have all the momentum stopping them, right, on a 15-play drive at the 1-yard line. And if anything, you want to gain, 10, maybe 15 yards, get 1 first down, and then punt it out of there. And they fumble the very first snap from under center. And I don't know how often this year Lake took snaps from under center with Will Butler or Cale Jarvis, right? But that's just on the quarterback there. You've got to secure the football there. Fundamentals, we've talked about it all year long. I've seen it so many times. You take your eye off the ball. You just don't get it right. Maybe the elements played a factor in it, but fundamentals are crucial. And you see there too. And we wondered, Solberger started the game, and run this back again, Billy. He started the game after being on crutches last week after one carry. Well, after one play, he goes out again. And see right there, that ankle kind of bends sideways. That's probably where he tweaked it again, and he didn't come back in till late in the game in the fourth quarter, and he scored their only touchdown against Massillon's reserves. But not having him really hurt, I thought, Lake's chances last night. I'm not saying that they would have won the game or had more yards, but I don't think they would have had 0 yards rushing if Solberger was 100% playing. But you know what? It's part of the game. I go back a few years when Nate mentioned the 42 carries from Jameer Thomas against McKinley. They go into the championship game that year against Akron-Hoban, and he's injured, Jameer Thomas. He can't play in that game. So their top rusher was out, and I thought if he would have played that year, Massillon would have won the state title. But that's part of the game. Injuries are a part of the game, and Massillon's defense was able to take advantage of that and dominate the game yesterday.
Yeah, and credit to the Tigers. They were ready. They were healthy. They were deep. They executed game plans on offense and defense. You look at Lake, not healthy. And I don't think either team is fully healthy, but not healthy. Like you said, Kenny, we find out they're down their center to start that game. They had multiple fumbles. I mean, again, you look at Solberger here. He just doesn't seem right on this first play. I think in theory, you say, okay, Will Butler is a great runner. He's strong. Let's put him at running back. Well, if you think about it, Kenny, how many of his runs are options where the line and the defense is already moving and moved away, or there's a gap open? Now it's just he's in the backfield. He's got the ball, and they know it, and they're coming for him. Right. Completely different game plan. I also really emphasize the fact that again, Massillon does it well too, but Lake throws the ball. They like to throw the ball. Dylan Snyder's had huge plays. Kel Jarvis can air it out. That was gone. The minute I touched that field, I knew it was gone. It was icy. It was cold. It was windy. They weren't going to be able to hit that big Dylan Snyder throw.
Yeah, and that really hurt them. And it hurt Massillon too, because Slaughter can air it out with, Ardell Banks, and they took their shots when they had the wind at their back. But as Nate said, it was even tough to throw when you had the wind at your back. But yeah, the better team won last night. Okay.
Right.
As good as Lake is, and they're very good, Massillon won the battle in the trenches, O-line, D-line. Yes, it was a depleted O-line, D-line for Lake, but still, Massillon, I think, is the better team, better skill position players. And like I said, at the beginning of the season, we expected them to be back in the state semifinals. And I think all of us even said at our one meeting, we expect them to play for the state championship this year. Well, the state championship game may be this Friday night against Hoban, right? Unfortunately, those two teams have to meet before the state title as Hoban. And let's just, look at some of the Hoban video that we have here, Billy. Hoban wins last night over Hudson 41-7. So Massillon beats Lake 24-6. Hoban beats Hudson 41-7. Lamar Sperling, 36 carries, 4 less than Willtrell Hartson, but he ran for 288, so 100 more than Willtrell Hartson, and 5 touchdowns. Now, these aren't from last night's game, these highlights, but this gives you an idea of what Massillon's going up against in Lamar Sperling, number 32 right there. And I read this in the paper, so I hope it wasn't a typo. I looked at it, I'm like, what? Over 3,000 yards rushing, either individually or as a team. If it's individually, that's even more impressive from Lamar Sperling, as he's just a beast. And Massillon's defensive line, you want a challenge? Here it is. His name's Lamar Sperling, and the big guys up front from Akron-Hoban next week at InfoCision Stadium.
Yeah, it's where everybody wanted it. First off, I know a lot of people are wondering and wanted to know, yes, it's InfoCision in Akron next week. I think that's going to be I think it's the Gatorade Ohio Player of the Year or whatever. I can't remember, but the Ohio Mr. Football, right? That's it, Mr. Football.
Okay.
I think it's Lamar Sperling. I think he's going to be the Mr. Football. So they're taking on a big back, a tough back, fast. You see him hit he gets hit once, Kenny. It's going to take 3 times.
Run them again, Billy. Run the highlights, because you're right, man. He bounces off hits, and then he's got speed on top of the physicalness.
No doubt. And look, we got to get back to the Tigers, though. I mean, this is a defense that showed up last night, was tremendous last night, tracked the runner, got to the line quick. Everybody played well. There was nobody that really made a mistake on that Tiger defense besides penalties. Things got a little chippy. I think that cost them at points, but I think they're ready for a challenge like this. But, man, that is a challenge. Lamar Sperling is a challenge. We know the history of Nate Moore and Massillon and Hoban and the playoffs and the state championships and all that, and I believe we mentioned our banquet coming up here, but Sean Crable's son, he's on Hoban.
Yeah.
So, there's all these ties in this game. It's kind of ridiculous. And like you said, maybe this is the state championship Friday night. And we need to be kind of ready for that. But I'll tell you who's ready. Massillon. They looked tremendous last night. Offense, defense, the weather didn't matter. The game plan, they were ready. They came in with a game plan and played so well. Again, I mean, can you name a player that struggled? Can you name a play where somebody messed up? I don't think so. Well,
Willtrell did put it on the turf one time.
Sure.
But when you carry it 40 times in that weather, that's bound to happen. But the penalties, they've got to clean that up. You can't have the 2 fumbles and the penalties against a Hoban team because, as I said, Lake, and I want to give Dan DeGeorge credit real quick here. Before we talk more about Hoban. Lake went 12-2 this year, second most wins in school history, first league title since 1998 as they shared the Fed with McKinley. They had won 1 playoff game since 2010. Think about that. Since 2010, they had won 1 playoff game. They won 3 this year. Will Butler, Federal League Player of the Year. Dan DeGeorge, Federal League Coach of the Year. Stark County Coach of the Year. 6 all-county players. So they had a heck of a season. They really did. But this was their first taste of a regional final. For Hoban, they, like Massillon, expect to play every year in the regional final and get to the Final Four. They've won multiple state championships. They've defeated Massillon twice in a state championship game, once at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. Massillon beat them either in the semifinals or the regional final the one year. So Massillon has defeated Hoban in a playoff game, but not in the biggest game. Well, this isn't the state championship game per se, right? It's the semis, but it may be for the state championship. And so these 2 teams have the experience. They have an outstanding back. They've got huge offensive and defensive lines. So this is the game. As much as we wanted 2 Stark County teams playing in that game last night, and we did, and it was fun for us, this is the game everybody wants to see, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're going to put it at InfoCision Stadium. Hopefully the weather will be better and less travel for both sides, and we'll get 10, 12, 15,000 people there maybe at InfoCision Stadium, because I think last night we probably had about 4,000, maybe 4,500 in a stadium that seats 11,500. So next week it'll be at a better stadium as far as the field turf and the surroundings. And I haven't looked that far in advance to the weather forecast yet, Billy. Maybe I'll do that right now.
I think it's supposed to be 40 and less wind is what I was checking in on. So you hope it kind of stays that way.
I'll take that on a Friday night and the day after Thanksgiving.
And like you said, it's powerhouse time, right, Kenny? That's what you want in the Final Four. We love an underdog. We love a good run, but if you can have 2 teams that at the beginning of the year you knew would be there at the end of the year, it really is exciting. And again, congrats to Lake. Like you said, a lot of record breaking, a lot of historic things they did, and possibly a learning lesson for Coach DeGeorge, for some of those players, for the program itself going forward. What do you think? What are we looking at next Friday?
All right, here now, again, a lot can change between now and then, and I'd love to be a meteorologist where I can be wrong 50% of the time and still get paid and keep my job. But next week, Saturday night, it says 32 degrees, 40% chance of snow, winds at about 11 miles an hour. So that's for now. We'll follow that up throughout the week on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC and Canton's Morning News with Pam Cook and Billy producing. So we'll see how the weather affects next week's game plans for both teams. But again, it's the game we all wanted. And run the scores from last night. And thanks to Brian Novak for putting the Division II scores. Here's the 4 regional championship games: Massillon over Lake, Hoban over Hudson. So they match up. Toledo Central Catholic beats Avon 28-20. So they'll play Kings Mills Kings, who took down Cincinnati Anderson 46-42. Another factor in here, Billy, you don't see a name in there that is a positive for Hoban and for Massillon. Winton Woods, last year's state champs, right? They got knocked out earlier. So you don't have to worry about Winton Woods if you're Hoban or Massillon should you win next week. And I'm not taking anything away from, Toledo Central Catholic, who will play Kings Mills Kings. But that's why I say I believe next Friday night's game is for the state championship. And so that's why we're going to build it up and make a big deal about it and have it for everybody on 1480 WHBC, Mix 94.1 FM, and WHBCSports.com streaming live next Friday night.
Beautiful. Looks great. A lot of high-scoring offense. You can see there, Kenny, and Titans colliding now this next week, and then Titans colliding again in the state title. Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium is the place everybody wants to be playing for the state championship. So I know a lot of people were confused. They were tweeting headed to state. Some people were saying regional champs. I know there's a lot of terms being thrown around. I stuck with the general Final Four. I think that's good. That's okay. That's keeping me honest right now. I think it is a little confusing, but it's been so great so far. And I know we talked a lot about the beginning of the season and how things have gone and worked out. And I think our banquet the other night was one of those things where we kind of got to recap everything, think about everything, look back on the season. It really went well. Again, record numbers for us over at the hotel. Parents were there supporting, coaches there supporting. I know we'll run down the list of everything here in a second. We like to honor all the kids. Every team gets to pick an MVP. We have our all-county team, an academic award, a sportsmanship award, player of the year, coach of the year. This is something WHBC's done for 78 years. Another positive on Thursday night.
Yeah, it was an honor once again to host that prestigious event. And, we put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think it shows. And to have about 300 people there, and we couldn't sell any more tickets. It was sold out, largest crowd ever for that. Tells you how much people love their high school football in Stark County. And it's only appropriate that we honor the coaches, the assistant coaches, the trainers, the players, the family members, the moms and dads for a memorable season and for all the hard work that those kids put in. We give all county offense, defense, team MVPs, player of the year, coach of the year, Jim Johnson Sportsmanship Award, the Jim Muzzy Academic Award, and everything like that. So it was a lot of fun for me to be able to host and MC that with Dan Belford and the great job that you and everybody did with the social media side of things. Matt Fontone helping you out there, Dale Lamb, our engineer, and Eric Williams, Pam Cook putting it all together, Larry Gothrop, our boss, everybody, all of our TV, radio, and streaming crews do a fabulous job. We kind of culminated with that banquet. The food was damn good, too. The steak was fantastic. So that was a nice bonus as well. But we take pride in it. It's a labor of love for us. And I think it comes across in that banquet. We got a lot of nice feedback from the fans, and we're going to make it better next year. We're going to add more to it. We took that group photo of the coaches this year. We took that group photo of the 4 former Stark County Player of the Year guys that were there. So look for those up at WHBC.com Monday afternoon. All the photos will be up there. So if you were at the event, if your son won an award, your grandson won an award, whatever it is, you'll be able to download those photos from Sean Woods Photography on our website Monday afternoon, I believe, is when listen in on some of the speeches that were given, Billy, from the award. We have that from the awards banquet. This is Jack Talkington, who was selected again by the coaches. Media members, we don't vote on this. The coaches pick the player of the year in Stark County for us. So the coaches selected Central Catholic quarterback, linebacker, and punter Jack Talkington as the Stark County player of the year. Here was his acceptance speech.
My coach told me to write some words down, so I listened to him for once. And first, I'd like to thank WHBC and all the coaches who voted for me. That's a great honor, and I can't be proud enough for all of you for putting my name on the ballot. I'd like to thank my mom and my dad. They've sacrificed everything for me. I don't know how I can't repay them. Everything they've done for me is monumental. I love them. They're everything I got, and I thank you guys for everything. I would like to thank my coaches and my head coach, Coach Linda Smith. The treatment I got at Central was like on any other. I remember my freshman year in a freshman game against Norway, and I dislocated my knee. And right when I got back to school, Linda Smith was there with the doctor and everything, just waiting. And once that would happen, I knew that I found my home in Central, and I loved it ever since, and I would never leave. Next, I'd like to thank my teammates. Those guys are everything I got. They're my brothers, my family, from all the sacrifices they put in with practices, games, lifting. I want a different 5 linemen. I would never want a different 4 receivers or a different running back, Alex Anderson. I wouldn't want anybody else. I'd like to thank Jim Ballard. He's I've been going to him since about I was in 7th grade, 8th grade as a quarterback, and he's always been there for me. He's taught me a lot, and from getting in his chamber, which is really cool, it's awesome. If you guys need to get in one, it's really great. But he's a great guy, and I can't thank him enough. Lastly, I'd like to thank John Foster. He is a strength and nutritionist coach I went to. And he got me on a great diet, got me fit for my senior year, and he's someone I can lift with, talk to if I ever need anything. And that's all I got. I just want to thank everybody.
That's all I got. I think that was awesome. How about this for Jack Talkington? One of the reasons the coaches, could have went to about 4 or 5 different players, right, Billy? Willtrell Hartson comes to mind as he's closing in on 2,000 yards rushing this year. Could have went to Poochie Snyder, 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing, 50 touchdowns. But Jack Talkington threw for 1,000 as a quarterback, ran for 1,000 as a quarterback, and had over 100 tackles as a linebacker. So he's in the rare 1,000, 1,100 club. We always talk about the 50, 40, 90 club in the NBA, 50% from the field, 40% from three-point range, 90% from the free throw line. How about a 1,100 club for Jack Talkington? Helped Central win a playoff game. They came up short against Mogador, but they finished 7-5. He's going to go play college football, not sure where yet, but as a linebacker in college. And so congratulations to Jack Talkington.
Yeah, he was deserving of it, but kind of a tough call. I know we watched one of the options for that last night. Willtrell Hartson was tremendous. We knew Poochie Snyder, I think you and I both thought was a front runner for that, actually, breaking school records as a junior and whatnot. So congrats to Jack. All those videos, Kenny, I want to mention our all-county team, our MVPs, Dan DeGeorge's speech, Jack Talkington's speech, all of that's on our YouTube right now. So if you missed it, if you missed the banquet, you want to see more, check out our YouTube. And then, yeah, like you said earlier, too, we have pictures of the coaches and all that on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
You mentioned Dan DeGeorge. He was selected by his peers as the Stark County Coach of the Year after being named the Federal League Coach of the Year. And here's what Dan had to say at our banquet on Thursday night.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start off by thanking WHBC first and foremost, not just for this great event, but just their coverage all year. It's awesome what they do for high school football in our county and the way they do it. There's no hidden agendas. They do it for the game and for the kids. So actually, let's give WHBC a round of applause for everything they do. Again, thank you to the coaches, Stark County coaches. I'm honored to be in that fraternity. No doubt there's some excellent coaches in our county. Highly respect all of you, what you do, how you do it. So appreciate this very much so. Accepting this on behalf of my team, my players. They're just an awesome group of kids. Also, I have the best coaching staff around, particularly my coordinators, J.R. Supis, Frank Pilato, and Ron Viscount are here with me tonight. So you win with good people, and I have great people. So I also want to quickly thank my family. My wife's here. She ran down tonight. My daughter had her senior volleyball banquet tonight. One of those things as a head coach I had to miss because we had this, and the head coaches in the room can relate to that. Doing this job, you have to miss some things sometimes, but you have to have a family that supports you, and I'm lucky enough to have that as well. I also want to thank my superintendent, Kevin Tobin, our athletic director, Brock Klein, and all the Blue Streak faithful. Man, I'm blessed. Love going to work every day. Go Blue Streaks. Thanks, man.
All awards banquet, and I'll hold this up. Here's the program. We've got that the screen that you can't see because we're using the, there it is, green screen. But there's the program, and what's cool about that is you go back in here and you can go all the way back in this program. All right, 1945 all-county team. Right, you can go back and look who made the all-county team back in 1945. Massillon, Timken, Lincoln, Lehman were the schools represented on the all-county team back in 45. And you go back, A.J. Sarbaugh was last year's coach of the year, had another outstanding year. Antonio Hall, they started 0-4. They win their next 5 games, right, and make the playoffs and win a playoff game. And should have beat Menor, came up a little bit short in a game. So he did a great job. Matt Dennison with Poochie Snyder and Canton South, first year in the Pac-7, and they get a share of that title. So there were a number of coaches like Dan that were worthy of this, but the coaches, his peers, and it was pretty overwhelming. I've been told, the vote total selected him as the coach of the year this year for the first time for Dan, and I think the third different coach at Lake to win that award now.
Yeah, got to shout Coach DeGeorge out. And you talked about Nate Moore's speech. I thought Dan DeGeorge gave a great speech. Those losses sting. They hurt. But he said he wanted to let those guys know a full season ended last night, not one game. He was proud of the work they did. He reminded them, I'm proud of all you guys, love all you guys. You love to see it. And again, the history of it, right, Kenny? We talked about the trophy that we have of all the winners. We got to have 3 guys go out there and hold it. Jay Rohr and Antonio Hall, Hunter Wells from Fairless, 2013 winner, and Dan DeGeorge's coordinator, Ron Viscount. He was 1984 Player of the Year at Lake. Now he's Lake's, I believe, defensive coordinator. So we're all sitting there holding that trophy. That was a moment. It
really was. I to see 4 guys that won that award, right? And Hunter, unfortunately, won it in 2013. That's the first year we didn't give that trophy out. And we stopped giving it out because it was an old trophy that was starting to maybe fall apart a little bit. So that's when we changed things up. So he got to get his picture taken with the trophy that those other guys got to take to their school, and have it there for a year and then give it back, kind of like the Stanley Cup or whatever. And now, there's a different trophy that goes to the school. They get to keep one there, put it in their showcase and everything like that. So that was a really neat moment. And just the history of football in Stark County. It started in Stark County, the game of football, and to do high school football on a weekly basis for us, and now into week number 15 next week with Massillon and Hoban. It's an honor for us to be a part of that each and every week, and we take it very serious.
I'd agree. It was great banquet. Worked very hard. We also have a video up on our YouTube kind of just showing everything we kind of got to do this year. Some great moments, right? Some good video. I know last night was one of those moments you talk about labor of love. It's freezing. Yeah. We've got a full team there. We had so many people working so hard just to cover one game, right? And we do 3 every single week. So you and I both on the sideline, freezing our butts off, but making sure we get good footage, good pictures, interviews, things like that. Dale Lamb is making me hot chocolate at halftime. Eric Williams is the spotter. Dan, Denny, and Mark are doing the game. So it takes a lot to do one game. We're proud of the fact that we did 3 every week. And Thursday was kind of the culmination of, not only those kids being honored, but our team kind of feeling like, all right, another great season wrapped up.
Yeah, and I've got a question here, Billy, and we've mentioned it a few times, but we didn't have it updated on our scroll, so I just updated it right now. And this was from Mick Google. Can you please tell us where the Massillon-Hoban game is? And it's now on our crawl on the bottom of the screen, so we apologize for not putting that up earlier, where the game is being played. It will be at Akron's InfoCision Stadium Friday night at 7 o'clock, and we'll have it for you on WHBC Mix 94.1 FM and on WHBCSports.com. So should be a fun night of high school football, and 2 great teams battling it out for the right to play the following week for the state championship. Think about this, Billy. We already know the OHSAA has decided that the first game this year in the state championships, and all 3 days, will be at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Only one game that day. 7 o'clock Thursday night, December 1st. That will be the Division II state championship game. So whoever wins Friday night between Massillon and Hoban, they know they will play the following Thursday for the state title at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. So a lot at stake next Friday. How about that? Your potentially your last 2 games are going to be played at InfoCision and Tom Benson. Not a bad way to end the season, right? As far on the, I know you love your home field wherever you play in high school, but to be able to play at a Division I school in Akron like that, in the MAC where they play their MAC games, and then to come back and where the Hall of Fame game is played for the NFL, to play a state title game right there, that's a nice way to end your season if you get that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think, look, if the season ends one way or another, you're going to look back and you're going to remember the icy snow game, and you're going to remember, for Lake, that rainy game last Friday, right? I mean, these are memorable moments. It's coming Friday though, Kenny. This is the big game. We're excited for the coverage we're going to have. Again, you can go back and watch all the highlights from last night over our social media and rewatch the Huddle if you want. Rewatch. I'll be posting that Lamar Sperling segment, just talking about them, talking about Hoban to kind of get us set, and I think a lot of people would be interested to kind of get a look at Hoban in this area pre-hand. So
yeah, hey, I want to give you credit. You put together a video that played at our banquet, and it's up on YouTube as well, right? Am I correct on that?
Right.
For people that want to take a look, we kind of tried to get photos, videos, audio, play-by-play of all the teams we covered this year. And how long did that video end up being, Billy, that people can go back and watch kind of a highlight package of everything we did this year at WHBC high school football-wise? Great job, by the way.
Thank you. It 13 minutes. It could have been 20, 25, 30. Some great moments, right? Massillon beating St. Ed's. That was awesome. A lot of our all-county players are highlighted on there. So, I know not everybody gets to watch DeAndre Church. If you're a Jackson fan, maybe you only saw him once. If you're Sandy Valley, you didn't see him at all. There's a couple of highlights of him, right? We talk about, you and I are on the sidelines every week. Look, maybe those aren't all county players, but man, what an angle you got on some of these shots. I wanted to throw that in, get that in there. We gave the kicker some love. We gave the punter some love. The Huddle, we're proud of what we're doing on here, Kenny. We've had some fun moments. I'll never get over the Zach Slates and Brian Gamble talking with each other on there, and Slates offers Gamble advice on how to throw and run the pass game. So yeah, go check that out on our YouTube. Some fun moments from this past year, and I think it really gives a understanding of how hard we're working and all the options you have when you choose WHBC for high school football.
Yeah, it's a blast. We love what we're doing. We can't wait for next Friday night, Hoban and Massillon, and we'll have it covered. Billy and I will be on the sidelines. Dan Belford, good. Denny Kincaid, Mark Miller. I'll be calling the game for you. And make sure you lock in all week long on the Kenny and JT show. We'll get Nate Moore on the show, I'm sure, again this week with Brian Novak placing those phone calls, as well as Tim Terrell from Akron Hoban is always willing to do interviews. He's used to the interviews when you win 4 or 5 state titles, whatever it is that they've won there. You're used to that kind of stuff. So we'll have that game covered for you all week long, and again on Friday night and next Saturday morning on the Huddle, in case you missed it on Friday night. Hey, let's give some love to our all-county teams, Billy. Right now, I'll take the offense, you take the defense, all right? So we'll run down our all-county team. And this is something that we honored at our banquet on Thursday night. We announce the all-county teams, the individual players. They come up, they get their plaque with their name and school on it, and then they get their photo taken, so they'll have that forever. And again, you can get those photos Monday afternoon, WHBC.com. Thanks again to Sean Woods for the photography that he does. Fantastic. But our all-county offense started at quarterback. 2 quarterbacks made the all-county offense. Jack Pucci Snyder from Canton South, Brendan Zerbrug from Alliance. Both had outstanding years. Big numbers from those 2 quarterbacks. Congratulations there. Our running backs, and there were 4 of them on the all-county team this year. Jason Davide led Jackson this season. 1,562 yards, I think 25 total touchdowns running the football. Willtrell Hartson, just shy of 2,000. Will play next week. He'll go over 2,000 next week, more than likely. He's got 30 rushing touchdowns. He was an all-county running back. Caden Davis, part of that 1-2 punch in Alliance with Brendan Zerbrug and DeAndre Church, who you mentioned in that highlight video. Those were the 4 running backs that made the all-county team this year. Heck, how good is the all-county team? Kyler Maraglia from Northwest couldn't make the all-county team this year, and he had a hell of a year for Northwest. That's how deep we were at running back this year. He could have easily been on that any other year. Wide receivers, Dylan Snyder from Lake, Brody Pumneo from Fairless, Ardell Banks from Massillon, Tavon Castle from Canton South, and Sincere McNeil, who unfortunately got hurt late in the season for the McKinley Bulldogs on the opening kickoff of that Massillon game at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, and that really affected that game and McKinley for the next couple of weeks. But he was named to the all-county team. Hopefully that, I guess, eases the pain a little bit, as he was in a walking boot at our banquet on Thursday night. So congratulations to the wideouts. Nolan Davenport from Massillon was our tight end on the all-county team. And the offensive linemen that were honored, the big guys up front who make it easy for the running backs, the quarterbacks, and the wide receivers to put up their statistics. Thomas Fox from Fairless, Jack McAvenue from Lake, Garrett McCole McKinley, Styles Dietz from Lake, and Evan Sergo from Massillon, along with Riley Plotner from Northwest. They were the offensive linemen on the team. Ty Bookman was the kicker on the all-county team, and we added a kick returner this year to the all-county team, deservedly so, Maurice Hill from McKinley. So congratulations to our all-offensive, all-county team.
Yeah, offense, definitely tremendous. As we go through defense here, Kenny, how many names you're going to hear playing 2 ways? I know offense the same way, but defense, a lot of 2-way guys, a lot of guys that have to bust their butts on both sides of the ball. Marcus Moore from Massillon, the defensive lineman, will start on the D-line, offense and defense, but he's highlighted here as an all-county defensive lineman. Evan Brady from Lake, Coach DeGeorge highlighted that he was a linebacker that they needed at defensive end. He ends up on our all-county team. Kyler Jenkins from McKinley, we saw him in some big moments. Cody Workinger, a friend of the show, he was on the show, taller in person. He looked like he had a great season and a good senior season. Colton Arnold, again, offense and defense, but he's highlighted on defense. Jack Talkington, your Stark County Player of the Year, earned it on offense, but earns it here on defense. Luke Grigolo of Hoover, they had a great defensive season and a bounce back. Jacob Davide of Louisville, again, playing 2 ways, but a really good defender, pressuring the quarterback a lot. Jamar Barsick from that McKinley defense that had a good year. Dorian Pringle, who we just spoke with from Massillon. Will
Beast. And by the way, he's a beast. Billy, I walked by him and patted him on the shoulder to say good luck, Thursday night for the Friday night game. Dude, it felt like I was hitting a brick wall. I mean, that guy is solid, man, and that's why Nate's using him both ways like that, but he's effective most on defense, and I totally understand why, man. I wouldn't want to get hit by Dorian Pringle, I'll tell you that much.
5'11", 220, and he'll have another year, it looks like, at Massillon.
How about that? Yeah,
So
another year. He's only a junior, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, he may, who knows? He may be the feature back next year.
Don't know.
Will Butler of Lake, we know how well he played at quarterback, Kenny, but he's another kid, very tall, very athletic. We're told he's a basketball player too, so won't surprise me to see him out there for Lake. He played safety and corner for the Blue Streaks. He was tremendous in both spots. Toby Schrader of East Canton. This is why we do a Stark County banquet, right? There's teams that in the area, maybe not their best season. Maybe we don't go to as many games as we hoped for them, but we get the coaches together so they can identify some of these guys. Toby Schrader for the defensive backs. RB Pringle of Massillon, another very athletic, quick, and a ball hawking player. He almost had a couple picks last night. Luke Yoder, you're going to hear a couple Fairless kids, right? They had a great year. We saw him on the Huddle and in a lot of big plays. Alex Anderson, another key piece of that Central Catholic team. And Kelton Dutton of Lake, we actually wrote down the averages, went through the averages. He had the best punting average besides Jack Talkington, who we didn't even put up for punter of the year. When Trucker gave us his punting average, I'm like, I think that's the best.
Right. And that was his net punting average too for him. But Kelton Dutton was such a huge part of what Lake did because they were a defensive first team, right? They were built on their defense, and it's okay to punt, flip the field, get the ball back on a shorter field and let your offense do the job. And unfortunately, Kelton couldn't punt last night because of that wrist injury. So, congratulations to him. And that was our all-county defense. And real quickly, Billy, congratulations to these team MVPs before we wrap up this edition of the Ortho United Saturday Morning Huddle. From Alliance, Aiden Mosden, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. From McKinley, quarterback Keaton Rohde. From Canton South, quarterback Jack Poochie Snyder. By the way, his first name is Jack. From Central Catholic, quarterback linebacker Jack Talkington, player of the year. From East Canton, Alexander Campbell, offensive lineman. From Fairless, Carson Colucci, quarterback. From Glen Oak, Avante Burt, who had a nice season, running back. He's only a junior. He'll be back. Another junior who will be back. For Hoover, their MVP, quarterback Carson Derlin. And again, these are picked by the coaches, not by us media members. From Jackson, Jaden Mauser, defensive lineman, was their MVP. For Lake, Matt Solberger, who scored their only touchdown last night, senior running back, was the MVP. Charlie Roberts, senior quarterback for Louisville, two-way player, was the MVP. Bo Himmelheber, wide receiver, defensive back, kick return guy, punt return, whatever they needed him to do. Coach Morrow picked up his 200th win. Congratulations in his career. Whatever Coach Morrow needed him to do at Marlington, Bo Himmelheber did it. He was the MVP. Jalen Slaughter gets the nod for MVP at Massillon. He's only a sophomore at quarterback. Minerva, Matt Phillips, defensive end, tight end. At Northwest, Jim Cunningham, a senior offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Carson Basham, junior quarterback, and defensive player, wide receiver, wing player, wherever they have him. He answered the bell for Zach Slates at Perry. St. Thomas, Owen Burek, junior quarterback, was their MVP. Chad Davis picked up the nod as MVP for Sandy Valley, junior running back. And Tommy Snyder from Tuslaw, senior wide receiver, was their MVP. Congratulations to all the award winners from our banquet on Thursday night. Well-deserved. And good luck to the Massillon Tigers on Friday night against Akron Hoban in the D2 state semifinals at Akron's InfoCision Stadium. And you'll hear it on WHBC and Mix 94.1.
No doubt. And again, if you want to watch all that from the banquet, check out our photos on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Video-wise, go to YouTube. We've got all the speeches, all the announcements. Check out the outfits. A lot of guys looking really, really good to pick up their awards. Another great year for us. Another great broadcast last night, coverage last night. Another great show on the Huddle.